In this demonstration, which is made exclusively for the Saturday offer from the Art of Craft, I'm going to show you how to use the pieces left over from Project 2. So this is Project 3. So the pieces left over from Project 2 to make Project 3. And all of these projects are made using the beautiful new Meadow stamp from Memory Box. So we have this beautiful large, it's a 6x6 stamp, but it doesn't mean we have to make 6x6 cards or big cards, or we have to be very good with colouring. So I'm going to make this one. We've got 3 pieces left over. So these are pieces left over from cutting out and making this card. And we want to use those and really make that work. So I've got my stamp here and I'm going to grab my press to impress. And what I've done is, this is a cling mounted stamp. So sorry to explain this again if you're sort of watching these in sequence, but in case people are just watching 1 or 2, it really is worthwhile. So this is a large cling mounted stamp, so it means that effectively I need to take the foam out. So I've taken the foam out of the press to impress, which is a separate piece, either in white or black, that comes out, and we use that for clear stamps. So I've put my piece in place. And what I want to do is I want to get the main body of the stamp. So what I've done is I've put a piece of our magic mat in. So this means that card will stick to it. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I want to clean off that stamp. And I don't clean stamps as they don't give a good impression. So I'm just going to take a scrap piece of paper. Use a piece of just old card that you've got that you don't like, or use a piece of photocopy paper. Just give it a good rub over to make sure you get any marks off. But to me, that will make a beautiful background. I will use that for another project. So once I've done that, I'm going to take the card and I'm going to pop it on exactly in the space of where I would like it from the stamp. And I'm going to close the press down the alternative way and fold it over. And that way the card then is left to the sort of sticky mat exactly where I want it. And I don't have to worry about it sort of moving or having to do a big piece and cutting it down. Obviously you could do a whole sheet and then trim it down, but by doing it this way you get just the bit of the pattern that you want, just exactly where you want it. So I'm just going to ink my stamp, and I'm using VersaFine in Smoky Grey, but any grey ink will work for this, so any of the Claire's or archival inks or anything. And again, just put it down, and because it's a large stamp, I'm using my stamp press tool just to make sure evenly I get a nice placement. Take the image off, and you see there I get just that 5x5, no marks, no shadowing, nothing, and it's exactly where I want it. Again, you could do it by trimming down, but this is a lot easier. And then it really is quite a simple job. And what I would suggest for this is we want to add our circles back in where the design fits. But if you use foam tape, it's quite definitive. So I'm going to use our 3D gel. So this is our 3D glue gel. And this gives me more maneuverability. So I'm just going to pop a little bit, sort of 2 blobs on the back of the large circle. And then I tie up where the design is, find the section where they match, and simply place it down so the design continues. I'm going to do the same with the second size of circle. And I've just cut these circles, as in the previous video, using the press cut sort of nesting circles. So find the section of design that you need to use. So here I have a leaf coming over, leaf going up, little bits of heart-shaped thing. There it is. So find that design and again press that into place. And then I'm going to take the third little section here. And again, 2 little blobs of our glue gel. And we find our design, and again I can find there it fits. That's it, exactly. And we place that on. So then we've got this beautiful idea of just sort of 3 spotlights with this really nice look from the Aurora Fusion. I've used Mimosa and Appletini on this. It just works absolutely beautifully, I think. So all we need to do is to add a sentiment on. So I'm just going to take a little scrap of card, and for this I'm going to use the other stamp set that we have in on offer on this special sort of Saturday design, and I'm going to go with "You Make My Heart Happy." So I'm going to select "You Make My Heart" and I'm going to put it against one of the lines on our mat, and then I'm going to pop "Happy" underneath, again using the lines on the mat to pick it up, to get it straight. Match the lines on the precision press and pick that up. I'm just going to take a little scrap of card. That one's not wide enough. So I'm just going to take another piece of the same card from the background and again stamp this in the grey. Place it down on my mat. So this is another piece of the magic mat, so I know that that's straight. Line up the lines and just stamp my sentiment. I can then simply bring in my guillotine and trim that down. I always take note of the measurement, so effectively it is 1 3/4. Let's go with that, shall we? That's a little bit wide, so let's go with 1 1/2. Perfect. Check the measurement on the other side. 1 1/2 by 3 1/4. So take a little piece of the grey we've used. So it was 1 1/2, so we're going to add 1/8 of an inch on. And it was 3 1/4, so again we're going to add 1/8 of an inch on, so 3 3/8, just to make a nice simple mat for this. And then I want to sort of add some of the same colour onto here. So simply take your inks, and this is how we did our circles. So I've got my mimosa, and I'm just going to colour that over one corner. I'm going to take my apple teeny and again a dauber, colour that over the other corner so they match in perfectly. I always store the sort of colours that match together nicely. And then I simply want to add a little bit of water flicking onto this. So we'll get a little bit of fresh water. This shows you exactly the technique of how we made the circles. So just add a little bit of water flicking on there. And if you don't want to waste the ink, take a scrap of card and pick up the spare ink, because it's perfect for another background. So that would be perfect to stamp another sentiment on. In fact, what I'm going to do is to show you. Let's just take our sentiment that's all still set in our precision press. There we go. So we've got a beautiful sentiment then for another project. That's dry. I don't need to blot it off, not with the fusion. So a little bit of glue, and then we mat it onto our little grey mat. And then I've got a 6x6 card blank here that's just been made up, and it's got a 5 1/4 inch and then a 5 3/8 inch of grey. Because my pieces are not dry yet, I'm going to add some foam tape, but if I add it to the card blank, just like that, then I can place it down without having to turn my main piece over. So we'll add that on, beautifully framed, and we've got our little sentiment. So I'm going to add a little bit more foam tape onto the back of there, and I'm just going to tuck it in so it just comes off the end of the card like that. So you can go with a larger sentiment like that, or you can go for a smaller sentiment as we had in the original card. Here I did Thinking of You, but 2 cards made really simply and easily just by using the leftover circles from making our original project. And this is the one that we made in the video before it was made together. All of the products used are available from the Art of Craft. Just visit www.art-of-craft.co.uk and click on the Saturday specials, and you'll see all the products that we've used from Memory Box, from Craft Artist and from ourselves.